What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. In this one, I will be going over a very interesting battle between an Astarte and an Assassin. So recently, I was doing the Death of a Primarch series, where I talked about how Conrad Kurz fell to the Assassin Meshen, and that story continued on after the death of Kurz. And it shows you a pretty detailed battle between an Astarte of the Night Lords who is basically going for revenge against Meshen the Assassin. And honestly, this led me to ask you guys a question on our community page for YouTube. Do you think that an Astarte can be beaten by a Sister of Battle, an Imperial Assassin, or a Sister of Silence? And you guys agreed that the Assassin would probably best a Space Marine more times than the Adeptus Sororitas or the Sisters of Silence. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and read this excerpt from the novel Soul Hunter, and then we can decipher how the battle went and who came out the victor. So without further ado, guys, let's dive right in. Meshen spun up on her toes, her blade in her remaining hand. She could see nothing in the pure blackness, but she didn't need to. The thrum of live power armor filled her senses. The low growls of its servo joints and false muscle fibers flexing told her all she needed to know. The location of the Astartes, his posture, everything. The assassin edged to the right, allowing herself a smile. Despite her exhaustion and blood loss, a lone Astartes would prove no threat. Talos closed his hand around her throat. He could sense she was duller, slower, and the beat of her heart was quicker than it had been in the palace. The assassin was weakened from her escape and the recent battle, but she would kill him before his hearts had time to beat twice if he tried to hold her. Everything about this creature was engineered to end life, and with infinitely more skill and grace than the blunt efficiency of the Astarte. He was a warrior, but she was a murderer. He was trained for battle and war. She was bred only to kill. The same second his hand gripped her throat, he was already acting, not to squeeze. Her armor of precious sin-skin would resist such trauma. He jerked her close, risking a headbutt to daze her. But that was a mistake. The assassin leaned her head back like a recoiling serpent. Curse her. She was fast, and Talos felt her fisted hand coming up to unleash the lethality within her rings, each one a digital weapon of some unknown configuration. He wasted no time. The Night Lord spat into her face and hurled her away. She had not screamed in many years. It wasn't the pain that was new to her, nor even a surprise, but this was no neat severance of limb from the body. This was the dissolving of her eyes and her skull. The never-before pain eclipsed her senses so completely. Even through the agony, she imagined the wretched Night Lord stumbling away in his cumbersome armor, amused at her momentarily helplessness body. And she was right. In the darkness, Talos relished the sound of her scream. Even sweeter was the subtle, mellifluous hiss of acidic venom eating into the soft tissue of her beautiful blue eyes. Panting now, seeing nothing but milky white sunfire, the assassin swallowed the pain and remembered her teachings. She used the agony as a means of focus, and over the vicious sss of her melting eyes, she heard the humming rambles of his armor. He had to die. He had to die now. And she launched at him to make the need become reality. Talos fired at the floor, bolt shells masking his movements as their rapid explosions overwhelmed the bridge chamber with noise. He cast a black-eyed glance at the assassin, blindly fighting the air. her lashing kicks and blade sweeps utterly lethal, aimed at audible joints and weak points within his armor, but nonetheless useless. Talos was already across the bridge away from her, Bolter still barking. Deafened and disorientated, the assassin slowed her movements. Desperately poised, muscles taut, she seemed to be trying to filter the noise of his armor through the banging detonations. He risked another shot to distract her, aiming squarely in her direction. She weaved a minimal amount, just as she had in the palace, and the bolt went wide. Talos breathed out a curse, as however she sought to sense him succeed perfectly. The assassin turned to face him and started running. With his free hand, he slammed on his helm. The Night Lord was a fool. Every explosion ringing from the floor betrayed the shell's point of origin. It was complex, a matter of rigid concentration and training, and Mishen was slowed by the pain that she struggled to overcome. That was why triangulating his location took almost 4 entire seconds, an age to her unnatural senses. Bolts started tearing directly at her, which confirmed her belief that the Astarte was a fool. Even rendered sightless, these she dodged with ease. A new sound overrode the slicing whoosh of missing bolts, a sound she had only heard once before. His voice, speaking a single word: prey sight. Had her blows landed, he would have died. He knew this with cold certainty. Her remaining hand would have thrust blade-like and steel-hard into the joints of his armor, crushing nerves and perhaps even breaking the enhanced bone of an Astarte warrior's skeleton. From there, his death would have taken mere moments. The pain he'd inflicted would be repaid tenfold. None of her blows landed, because she made no attempt to strike him. As the blur of dull thermal movement came charging towards him, as every bolt he fired was dodged with ease, Talos filled his 3 lungs with the blood-rich air of her wrecked bridge. As deep and echoing as the first thunderclap of a breaking storm, he roared his hatred at her. She had no idea if the Night Lord was still screaming or had fallen quiet after detecting his triumph. Her senses were killed. She felt only the air shaking around her as her enemy moved again, and as bolts slashed past. Linded, deafened, clutching a shimmering blade that had taken the head of a fallen god, she twisted in her spirit, and she leapt where she was certain the Astartes must be. Her estimation was, as always, perfect. The hunter had no concern for anything beyond his prey. Bolts streaked past her as he fired, and she dodged in blurs of dark lightning. Each bang was a storm's echo within the black halls of the night. The assassin dared a laugh, and well she might. What was a lone Astarte to a trained agent of the Imperial Callidus Temple? Nothing. Less than nothing. She ducked and weaved and flipped over the bolts, outpaced with ease. Talos cursed as he slowed to a halt and melted back into the shadows. The hunt was not over. Within the pages of the book Soul Hunter, we can see that Mishen is a trained Callidus Temple assassin, and that she sees this Astarte, this space marine of the Night Lords, as just prey, not a threat in the slightest. She is able to take him on one-on-one with ease, and he would have died in multiple parts of her attack if it weren't for a lot of things that were against her favor. For one, they were fighting in complete darkness. 2, she was basically incapacitated multiple times. The first was when he spat acid into her face, and her face was literally melting off. Now, we gotta remember that Space Marines can spit acid. That is something that you don't see on the tabletop and you don't really hear too often, but Space Marines do indeed have that ability. So getting spat on in the face and having your flesh melt before you, that's going to be some excruciating pain. probably some pain that assassins are not ready to deal with, and it can be confirmed here that she let out a scream when this happened. She has had her arms cut off, her limbs torn apart, and no noise, no sense of agony was heard. This was the first time in years that she felt pain of this level. And who can blame her? Her eyes were literally melting within her skull. But that didn't stop her. She still was able to dodge bolter fire, and not just dodge it, but also hear and feel where the bolts were landing, guess their trajectory, and pinpoint where Talos was fighting from. So with all that, she managed to get the jump on him, literally jumping on him, but he managed to use a deafening screech, which so let's all put this on there. They're fighting in complete darkness. Her face is literally melting, and now she is deafened by the screech that he has let out, and still she had the opportunity to kill him. That is crazy to think. Like, these assassins are so well trained, so expert at their craft, that all these things that would have killed any other Astarte, any other warrior, is barely a hindrance to Mishen, to the assassin. So say what you want, I still believe that assassins can take on Astartes, no problem. Now, of course, we got to think of it this way. This is a quote-unquote named character, so of course plot armor, be it some no-name assassin, she probably wouldn't have been able to do all this, but in at least this case, against a pretty powerful Astarte, I mean, Talos is no slouch. Night Lords, since they're empowered by chaos and whatnot, they do have a lot going for them, so this isn't just your run-of-the-mill Astarte, and this isn't your run-of-the-mill assassin, and we get to see this awesome battle between the two. Now, if you talk about how she was able to kill Conrad Kurz let her. Obviously, this dude is a demigod, he's a Primarch, he would have been able to wipe the floor with her with ease, I would assume so, because I mean, there have been assassins sent out to take out Primarchs before, and you know, they never completed the task. Like, there's a few assassins sent out to take out Horus, he survived. So as powerful as assassins are, they're the best of the best when it comes to assassinations. Like they said here, assassins are murderers, Space Marines are just like brute force. So let me know what you guys thought about this little excerpt from the novel Soul Hunter. I strongly recommend you guys read it because it's pretty good, it's pretty epic. Obviously, if you guys, I don't know if I should spoil it or not, but she does die. How and why, I guess I'll leave that for you guys. If you guys want to spoil it in the comments, go ahead. If not, you know, pick up the book. It's pretty good. And that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. This has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you then. Peace.